Hi everyone, Mr. Hawkins with Hawkins Tech, and in this video I will be comparing the iPhone 12 to the iPhone 14. This is actually my old iPhone 12, which you guys may remember in the videos, and this is my new iPhone 14. I will be going over their specs, talking about which one is obviously better, and different things like that. So taking a look at the iPhone 12, if there is one thing you guys will be able to notice when you first take a look at these devices, on the iPhone 14, well, the differences and the similarities are pretty obvious. Looking at the iPhone 12 to the iPhone 14, you can see that the iPhone 14 has the smaller notch, whereas the iPhone 12 here has the sort of longer and iPhone 10 style wider notch. Now, if I go ahead and flip them over to the back here, you can see some differences. Whereas on the iPhone 14, we have a diagonal camera system, and on my iPhone 12, it's a sort of wider or sort of a vertical camera layout here. On the iPhone 12, let me go ahead and unlock the 14. Let me put these two back in dark mode here. So taking a look at the overall cameras on both devices, well, the iPhone 12 has two cameras, just like with the 14, though there are some differences. On the iPhone 12 here, taking a look at these cameras, we have two cameras, a wide f1.6 aperture camera, 12 megapixels, and an ultra wide f2.4, and a front-facing sort of camera, which is an f2.2. Now on the iPhone 14 here, we have diagonal cameras, an f1.5 aperture, 12 megapixel, and f2.4, and within the notch, we have an f2.0. I will go ahead and test both cameras now. Here I am recording off of the wide f1.6 aperture camera on the iPhone 14. Now, I don't know how much of a difference you will notice when looking at the cameras on both devices here, but you may notice a difference. And then here is the ultra-wide f2.4 aperture camera on the iPhone 14, again, a 12 megapixel. Here I am recording from the front-facing 2.0 or f1.9 aperture camera on the iPhone 14, whereas the iPhone 12 had an f2.2 aperture. So I know it is a lower aperture for the front-facing camera, but you still get good quality out of the iPhone 14. Here I am recording off of the wide f1.5 aperture camera on the iPhone 12. As you can see, here is my iPhone 14. And then here we have the ultra-wide camera, which is an f2.4 12 megapixel aperture. Here I am recording off of the front-facing camera, f2.2 aperture, 12 megapixel on the iPhone 12. This is a really great camera for what you need it to do. Now, as far as sort of price and storage and specs and different things like that, well, let's start with storage first. I upgraded from the iPhone 12 to the iPhone 14. We go into the storage here. Taking a look at the iPhone 12 here, You can see that we are looking at the 64 gig variant, and it currently has 41.5 gigs remaining. It's because I resetted this device and set it back up again. Then we also have the iPhone 14 with 128 gigabytes with 55.34 gigabytes. But usually, when I was using this as my main device, it would only give me about 12 point so and so gigabytes, or it would drop down to as low as 10 gigabytes. The storage would drop quite a lot on this particular device. Now, as far as the speakers on the iPhone 12 and the iPhone 14 here, I will go ahead and play my video from earlier with this particular device. And I've been using the iPhone 14 for the past week. And in this video, I'm going to talk about what I love about it, my honest opinion. I'm going to go over some specs, camera, and I'm going to also talk about the price as well. Now let's first start off with the design. Now let's compare that to the iPhone 14's quality. With Hawkins Tech, and I've been using the iPhone 14 for the past week. And in this video, I'm going to talk about what I love about it, my honest opinion. I'm going to go over some specs, camera. So I'm not really noticing a ton of difference, but I will say that I think the iPhone 14 overall might be the better one for the speakers, though I'm still not noticing that much of a difference. But usually they do improve quite a few things, so the 14 might be louder, slightly louder than the iPhone 12. Now, as far as performance, well, the iPhone 14 has the Apple A15 Bionic chip with 6 gigs of RAM. So it will perform pretty good, whereas the iPhone 12 here has the Apple A14 Bionic chip with only 4 gigs of RAM. So while you can update to the latest version of iOS 18, and apps such as Apple Podcasts will load up pretty smooth, or you can even update to iOS 26 even to get the liquid glass effect in places like the control center and different things like that. The iPhone 12 will still continue to get iOS updates for about a year or so. So updates into iOS 27, then they will drop support. Whereas the iPhone 14 will get updates all the way until iOS 29. So if I honestly had to say which device I would consider, obviously, no doubt in my mind, I would consider the iPhone 14 mainly for the storage. 64 gigabytes is just sort of tight here in 2026. And as I'm recording this off of my iPad, I gotta hope that my storage doesn't go low, as I'm recording off of the 64 gig iPad Air. And that video for the 4 years later review is gonna come out next week. But as far as, well, honestly, my honest opinion on both of these iPhones together, I've been using the iPhone 12, well, practically, if you could say, since nearly brand new. If I go into settings here and go into battery health, you can see the battery health is somehow still at 80%. But if we go into the iPhone 14 here, taking a look at the 14, we have 85%. So this is a slightly newer device. newer than my iPhone 12. And obviously from the front, you will be able to tell a difference. On the right, the iPhone 14 has a smaller notch, whereas on the iPhone 12, we have sort of a longer and much wider notch, sort of like the iPhone 11 and iPhone 10. As far as anything else with these devices, well, honestly, the iPhone 12 has held up good for the last 4.5 years that I've used it. If we go ahead and take them out of their cases here. So taking a look at their designs here, if we go ahead and flip them over. So on the left is my iPhone 12. You can see we have the vertical stacked cameras, and on the iPhone 14, we have the diagonal cameras. And just go ahead and unlock this device. As far as anything else with these devices, well, honestly, I would have to say the iPhone 14 is the better overall device for longevity, performance. Now, while both devices can run the latest iOS version and do perform great on iOS 26, this phone was originally on an iOS beta. Well, it originally was a beta tester, and I tested iOS 26.3 RC and the other updates. Whereas on my iPhone 14, I'm still testing, and I'm testing iOS 26.4 Developer Beta 4, and it does run exceptionally smooth on the iPhone 14 here. So overall, I have to say that both of these devices are really great. As far as what I would rate them, well, the iPhone 14, obviously, without a doubt, I give it a 10 out of 10 for having great storage, being a reliable phone. Though I'm going to have to give the iPhone 12 on this one an 8 out of 10. Why the lower numbers? Well, two things. For one, the iPhone 12 has 64 gigabytes. Who uses that in 2026? I stretched it out as long as I did, well, mainly because it was my phone for the last 4.5 years, and I was in the process of hopefully upgrading, in which I finally did. And two, the 4 gigs of RAM, you will notice some day-to-day difference. I was playing games, testing out games such as Call of Duty Mobile or other games like that. For performance-wise, I won't be showing them on YouTube, though I was testing them out, seeing if the iPhone would overheat and sort of reload in the background. It didn't do it as much, so sometimes it did. Whereas on the 12, it was constant. Whenever you would be off of an app for just a little while, the phone gets hot, then it will reload everything in the background. And when it did reload, it reloaded relatively quickly, though it was still frustrating that things did have to reload in the background. On this particular device, so things did have to refresh here. So I give this device an 8 out of 10 because unlike the iPhone 14 where it's definitely more reliable, both phones are still pretty great. Though for the iPhone 12 here, honestly, 64 gigabytes is not really much that anyone can do with here in 2026. I managed it for 4.5 years, but 128 GB is really the best place to be. Leave a comment down below. What do you think of these two devices? Which one would you recommend? Me personally, I have to go with the iPhone 14 on this one. While the 12 is nice, the iPhone 14 has cinematic mode, it has action mode, crash detection, emergency SOS via satellite, more storage, a smaller notch, whereas the iPhone 12 has 4 gigs of RAM, the A14 chip, lower storage, and you could still use it in 2026 for about a year of iOS updates, though you will notice lower battery life. While this phone here, I tested the battery life, and well, it doesn't have the best battery life, but in terms of other things, it's better than the iPhone 12. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. I'm Mr. Hawkins with Hawkins Tech, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.